Greetings. If you don't know who I am, Zanted Kamar used to run write a daily column called No Longer Quivering for Pathos. For almost 10 years, I did that. Now I'm just doing my own thing, writing my own book, and just doing this sometimes when I feel like it. Um, I just want to say, do all the YouTubey things, hit like, subscribe, whatever floats your boat. I appreciate it. Also, don't bully anybody I'm going to talk about here, not even her, if you know who I'm talking about. I wanted to talk just a hair today about the 7M lawsuit. Last night or yesterday, sometime, some more documents dropped. And I'm getting all confused here. I'm bummed because I just bought this thing and I already have a big hole in it. Beach clothes are not set up apparently to wear any length of time. So I'm having kind of one of those days. I went to the beach earlier today. I took a tumble. So I'm kind of sitting around doing nothing this afternoon. So I thought, well, I'll come on here because I have a lot of things to talk about. Not the least of which is the 7M, the new paperwork that dropped from 7M. It's not real exciting, folks. No, chat disconnected. Connected. Okay. It's not that exciting. I looked through the paperwork last night. It's not that exciting. I looked through the paperwork last night. I thought about actually doing a stream last night when it dropped, when people were talking about it. Joanne Cochran was talking about it. Somebody else I saw was talking about it. And this was right after Uncivil Law had finished breaking down that huge hot mess of a filing that Graham Cracker dropped saying, hey, the dog ate my legal homework, so this is why you should give me more time. And I had to laugh because he didn't even pick up on the fact that you and I have picked up, and so many of us picked up on the fact that, and one party says it was his mother-in-law that was sick, and the next party says it was his father-in-law. And it sounded like quite a serious situation when the father-in-law died. Well, I do have sympathy for that. I have empathy for him losing his father. I don't have any empathy for the rest of it. When he started talking about having to care for his 5-month-old and his 5-year-old, I wanted to say, knitter, please. Aha! All of us who've been working mothers have had to do that. We have had to care for our children. Usually, and many times with a husband that is something less than helpful, a partner who doesn't always help out. I did it. So many others have done it, but I would not put it in a legal lawsuit. Hey, I missed the date because I was taking care of my kid. Just disrespecting 10 trillion working mothers out there. So that paperwork was just ridiculous, okay? Last night's was not so ridiculous. Uncivil Law was making me laugh because he was talking about how if he was Graham Martin, he would go ahead and file a motion to compel over the whole thing with discovery. A motion to compel ordering 7M to go ahead and cough up what they got, what they're after. 7M responded to that. Apparently, Graham Cracker did file one of those. He filed a motion to compel. And the next thing you know, you have 7M last night saying, okay, this is what we told you. This is what we're standing by. And if you don't like it, tough cookies. What were they asking for? Well, 7M had asked the judge to rule on the discovery issues. They have reason to want the discovery to be limited. They don't want Miss Katie Joy Paulson to get her hands on the discovery. Why? Because they don't want her blasting out things that are none of her business on her channel. And you and I know that if she does that, if she gets her hands on financial records of the church, physical records of like what was she asking for? She's asking for medical records, things like that. That she would, the next thing you know, she would be doing another live stream and she'd be blasting out everything that she got and those things. You know it, I know it. The iguana clumb in the wall knows it. It's just how she operates. And they pointed that out and said, basically, they said, look, we told you we will not be providing any discovery until the judge rules on the privacy issues having to do with the discovery. And Uncivil pointed out last night, it's not unheard of to ask for that in a case, because when you're talking about a business, it could be trade secrets, it could be any number of reasons why you would want to keep all the information private. So we don't know. We won't know until we see the actual discovery, what the quote bombshell is in that. We've all heard Katie Joyce say that if she got her hands on discovery, she would be giving it to the documentarians that she's supposedly working with. I've heard several different stories now. HBO, I've heard not just HBO, Netflix, Vildarama, the guy who was in that 70s show. She's told a bunch of different tales about some of the things she's involved in. And I don't know how true that is and who is doing this thing on 7M. But she has spoken before about giving anything that she gleans in discovery to the documentarians, which would be not kosher at all. So I don't blame 7M for asking for this privacy thing. So it ought to be really interesting at the end of this month when the next hearing is, and they get to rule on whether or not to just go ahead and do a summary judgment and be damn well done with it. If I was the judge and all this nonsense, I would be tempted to do that. Say, okay, you missed the filing date, not by a week, not by a day, not even by 2 days, but by 33 days, was it? That's pretty significant. Okay, my 11 cents on this. I believe that this date was missed, not just because Mr. Graham Martin was playing Mr. Bomb. I believe the real reason that this was missed was because he and you know who were negotiating with the Chrisleys to settle the lawsuit. They were trying to settle the Chrisley lawsuit, and they just kind of lost track of everything. And the next thing you know, they have passed their date on that because they were so busy trying to get that settlement with the Chrisleys. I did think it was interesting that the new paperwork seems to indicate that Graham Martin has been reaching out again and again and again and again to 7M to see if Robert Shen would just go ahead and come to a settlement with Katie Joy. I pray he does not. I think there needs to be consequences for actions, consequences for words now. And that's all I want to say on it. I don't really want to talk about her unless something happens with the lawsuit and we see new paperwork come down. Okay, I had a couple of things I wanted to talk about because I've had a kind of a crazy, crappy day today already. Good and crappy at the same time. I went and walked the beach this morning. Since we've been doing the COVID recovery thing, we've both been kind of crawling around. And my husband said he needed to get out and do something in the fresh air today. And he's been sleeping crazy hours and is getting to me because he's waking me up. He's waking me up in the middle of the night. So I was just dragging ass around the beach today. I went out to the beach and I walked. Got a little too much sun. It is what it is. I want to say that if you're going to move to Costa Rica, there's one big benefit for it. It's health. Even going to the beach here is just, you can feel it. You're walking on the water. You can feel your body just relaxing. The minerals and God knows what else absorbed through the sole of your feet. I've seen things that say there's a big benefit to walking in the beach. And that's one of my favorite things, is to walk on the beach. But somebody asked me, is like, what do you bring with you when you go to the beach? Now, I know people, when they go to the beach, they'll bring, hey, Bliss, they'll bring tons of things. They'll bring, my daughter, she brings the piece that goes down on the sand. She brings her chilbos. She brings the ice, she brings all this stuff. I don't. I'm going to show you today exactly what I bring when I go to the beach. And this is a lot. This is when I feel organized enough to do it. I bring my backpack. Always good to have a comfortable backpack at the beach. I bring my suntan oil, SPF 4, because I don't burn. I'm one of those people, even though I feel a little tight today. My skin feels tight. I also bring a pile of plastic bags. I bring one so that I can pick up all the trash. I always make sure I have a little grocery bag to pick up all the trash in. I make sure I have a big plastic bag for putting my cell phone and or my iPad in. And then I have assorted little plastic bags for things that you might find and pick up. Today, I didn't pick up any shells. There wasn't anything interesting at all, but I did pick this up. I don't know what this thing is. It's some kind of seed off of a plant right there on the edge of the ocean. So I'm not sure what this is, but it was such a nice looking seed. It's like, this is going to go into a piece of jewelry. So that's the reason why you have your little bags and all your stuff with you, is to have some place to put all that stuff. And there's one other very essential thing I always bring to the beach with me in my bag. This would help if I had it open. A water bottle. I bring this water bottle because it's a sealed thermos type, and it keeps the water cold. And if I manage to put it in the little paper, the little cloth bag, it stays even colder. So that's it, you guys. That's it for me. I pack light, and I stay light with everything I do. Whenever I'm traveling here, I just don't do it. I don't bring a whole lot of anything. Packing to travel to Minnesota for the court hearings. Java Man, I don't know. I really want to attend if we end up with an actual trial. I'm planning on attending. The problem for me will be having clothing that is courthouse appropriate, so that I don't look like a wandering beach vagabond, because most of my clothing here is beach wear. And the sad fact of the matter is, let me find it. Beach wear is not exactly, damn it, I just found it a few minutes ago. Oh, it is not made to last at all. Unfortunately, it really tears up in one hell of a hurry. I don't care how carefully you wash it. I don't care if you wash it on delicates. I don't care what you do with it. It is going to be that way. But I'm a light packer, and I tell you, if I go to Minnesota, you're going to see me and say, okay, that's her in the turquoise skirt with the black blouse. Turquoise skirt with the turquoise blouse. Turquoise skirt with the coral blouse. It's probably going to be that way. I'm going to pack very light, very little, and just show up. But of course, one thing I will definitely be having is a notebook and a pen. So yeah, Java Man, you're reminding me I need to look into that. I need to look at when the trial is, and book an airline ticket and book hotel rooms. Oh. So that brings me to the main thing I want to talk about today. And it kind of does involve her. It has involved her and others. I always pack very little for myself and overpack for the kiddos. Bliss, that's how I do it. I pack less for me and everybody else, including my husband. But lately I've been making myself letting him pack his bag, because he knows what he needs. I don't know what he needs. So it's better to do that with him anyway. So there we go. And I've learned, if you don't bring a lot of clothes, Big deal. You can buy more. There's always someplace to buy clothing. And when I go to the States, that's one of my times because here it's all beach wear and it doesn't hold up, like I said, which is fine for here. It's not fine for the States. I struggled with that with my dog dress that I wore that was just turquoise, that was dip dyed that I wore. So there was that. Looking back, I could have worn my one that was dark gray that has all kinds of sequins. It's a gorgeous dress. Oh, you're late to the party, Christine? I was just ranting about the latest documents in the Katie Joy 7M thing. 7M said, nope, they're not going to be bringing any kind of discovery whatsoever until the courts rule on the privacy issues with the discovery. That's all you really miss. And me complaining about how I pack very little for going to the beach and everybody else packs massive amounts. I've discovered through the years that with packing, less is more. I watched Uncivil talk about it. I did too, Christine. I watched Uncivil talk about the first one and then this last thing last night. Because in his first one, he was saying, I don't know why they just don't compel discovery. And it was interesting because this was the first time, I mean, I'd read through them, just glanced through them and read through them briefly when they first dropped. But I didn't notice until last night when Uncivil started making fun of it, that Graham Martin has his pronouns on his business letters, which is the most unprofessional thing I've ever seen. What the hell point is he trying to prove? Surely somebody is going to call him he, him with a name like Graham Martin and seeing that he's masculine, unless he allocates and says, hey, I want you to call me Shimshur or whatever people call themselves. There are all kinds of this innumerable things. And when someone tells me what to call them, I call them that. But here's the thing. Most people who are going with standard, very white bread, normally kind of things, don't turn a-hole about it and post it all over their business correspondence. It will be simultaneous, both sad and funny if Graham Cracker loses his long license for blindly signing off on KJ's documents. Building also might give her an out saying, hey, I didn't have proper representation the first time. Yeah. And she would absolutely use the info. That's what I know about her. So I don't think she should be allowed it. I got my YouTube account suspended on Sunday. I appealed and got it back. No explanation, though. I never post mean comments to anyone. Christine, I think it's just some major bollocks on YouTube's part. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, too, because I'm hearing that from so many people. And they haven't taken mine, obviously, but everybody I know it's been happening to. It's like, what did you do? And then it was like, oh, you didn't do anything. That makes it very puzzling. And the number of people I know that it's occurred to, it is just, you have to wonder what's going on down at YouTube. They won't take certain people's abusive channels, even though they're calling people filthy names and violating every TOS. They won't take their channels. But yeah, they'll go ahead and take your channel if you're not even posting anything mean or obscene. Not as bad as what's going on with Twitter. Java man, I am on the fence about Twitter. The other day I said, I'm leaving right after the election and I'm not coming back. Well, oh, good to see you too, the Mousy Files. So I said I was going to leave Twitter. I wasn't going to post there anymore. And a bunch of people said, oh, don't do that. And so I said, well, let me see what happens. I had a situation the other day, and I may have talked about it, where a pastor was saying you should always have all your functions, all of your secular functions at the church or else. And then he went even farther and said that if you voted a certain way, he would make sure that you received church discipline and maybe even getting kicked out. And I said, for the first one, I said, that sounds really CULT-like. And he got very offended and was going after me big time, blocked me, and then was talking crap about me around the block, tagging me. And I was like, no. And I finally blocked him, but it was pretty ridiculous because he was losing his mind because I suggested his words had more in common with a high demand religious organization than with the church. And I disagreed with people before, but this is the first time I've ever had anybody come after me. I mean, full throttle like this pastor did. And he had all of his little minions at his church coming after me. That was the surprising thing. So I learned something. Twitter has gotten very vile lately. And I'm not real thrilled with some of the things that are going down. Well, I was talking about on Facebook. I said, you will never guess what has happened on Twitter. And I was talking about it. And one of my friends is my husband's friend. He's my friend too, but he worked with my husband, contacted me and said, hey, Suzanne, I know somebody who works pretty high up at Twitter. Tell me the name of the pastor and do some screenshots and we'll block him. I'll get him to ban this guy. And I was like, no, number one, I didn't take any screen caps. I'm not like that. Number two, this is ridiculous to even think about. This is something that you're going to involve yourself in or involve Twitter in. Consider we've been seeing Elon Musk doing and saying all kinds of crazy ass stuff, including charging for a blue check. I'm not paying $7 a month for a blue check. You can forget that. And if Twitter goes any crazier, I may just go ahead and leave. I signed up for Tribal on my iPad, but I've only started to use it just a little bit. I have Instagram. I always forget I have that and I don't use it. They won't tell you anything. So it's like being accused of a crime, but not being told what the crime is or when you committed it. I believe that, Christine, because I've seen this so many times with so many people this week. And it seems to be really random. And you start to wonder, is this some kind of BS or a computer glitch? You wonder if it's the crazy haters out there. You really wonder that. At times when I first started going, I was like, okay, which hater did you make mad? Because it's likely they reported you en masse and this is why you can't post. But that's not at all what happened. I think it's a computer glitch. I think we need to fight it when it happens. I don't think we need to get too upset because clearly it is. I think Sue Elliott said that she had that problem and was able to get it resolved by, of course, appealing it. Now the Twitter employees get to be personally liable for legal issues with the FTC. I saw that. I also saw, don't do that. Stuck my tongue out to get some more tissue. No, I've just got a mouthful of tissue. Yeah, and not only that, Mr. Musk has called all the employees who haven't been let go to come in and work in the office. That's going to be about as popular as wet burlap underwear, which means not at all. I can't imagine having worked at home through the bulk of the pandemic and now being told to come in. If you are like me and you like to look at Reddit, Reddit has a subreddit called the Rebubble that is about the coming market crash and everything that's going to go on with inflation and everything. And they were talking the other day, they had somebody that had bought a huge house, major amounts of money, him and his wife. She got laid off. He thought he'd be working remotely for the rest of his life. Now he's got a 2-hour commute one way, and he's very upset and talking about selling at a loss. So these are the things you have to think of when you buy a house and with your job. I don't think anybody could say that they expected to be 100% remote from now on. My daughter is one of these people who doesn't like working remote. She likes working in the office with everybody around her. And that strikes me, I don't know. I prefer remote working. I've done remote work, but not her. She's like my husband. She doesn't do well with remote working. She likes to be in the thick of everything and doing it all. I took 2 days, but in the end, they said I did not do anything wrong. That's good. It's good that they clarified that. So if it happens to you and you find out that YouTube is taking your account, just appeal it. That's the only thing I think that actually works, because clearly you haven't done anything, particularly if you don't have a channel and you're not being ugly and fighting with everybody in the comments. Of course, if you were being ugly and fighting in the comments, chances are you wouldn't get banned or blocked, because I've seen a lot of that too. And it's like, how can you keep your, I don't know. So one of the things I want to talk about today, and this kind of goes back to KJ too a little bit. How do you decide when your friendship with someone is over because they have just crossed so many boundaries with you, even when you've put boundaries in place and said, hey, don't contact me between certain hours. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm busy. I go to the doctor on this day at this time. How do you handle that? That's a really big thing for me, leaving my old quiverful church, was reestablishing boundaries, healthy boundaries. And some of my friendships recently, I've realized, are not very super healthy. I have a friend who I dearly love in her own way, and she's completely out of the box. Well, you know, when KJ got too out of the box with me, I would just block her for a while, and she would come back a week or so later when she discovered I had her blocked and a different ID, and it would be okay, because I would have had enough of a space from the constant BS and the, I hate so and so, they're doing this and that and the other to me. I had enough space for that it was like, yeah, okay. And I wasn't having a meltdown. Hey, Grace Peter. But I have had other friends that have really overstepped the boundaries like she used to do, that I'm seriously thinking about blocking them. One of them, thankfully, got a hold of herself when I had COVID. And I was like PMing her and saying, please don't call me anymore. I can't talk. When they blame it on you, that you're upset that they're not respecting your boundaries, that's kind of where I am, Barbara. Let me tell you about this one. This is a lady that I dearly love. I've known her a long time. I know her because of her work in, deconversion, recovery from religion. And she is a wonderful lady. She's written for me. I adore her in her own weird little way. But I've noticed in the last couple of years, 90% of our conversations are her complaining about her life or complaining about an organization that she was once part of many years ago. It's just complaint. And it's starting to wear on me. It has been wearing on me lately, but lately it's just gotten a lot worse all of a sudden. I have a neighbor who I would also consider a friend, and she has a hard time understanding boundaries. Boundaries are hard to, it's hard to let people know they've crossed your boundaries. It really is, particularly if it's your friend and you love them in their own weird way, but you're like, no, you're really stressing me out. And she tends to send me these novel length messages about this one, that one, and the other thing. Lately, she's been very upset about her own situation. And I sort of kind of have some empathy, because I know what it's like to have a chronic illness, and she has a chronic illness. I know what that's like. It's a hard road. But at the same time, when she started complaining about her life to me, I started doing something very different this last week. I started saying, okay, well, you can do X, Y, or Z. I was coming up with solutions. And I've done that a lot of times with conversations with not just her, but others. I'm one of those people. I'm a fix-it. I always have been. And I was telling my husband earlier, even well before I met him, I used to sit down with my little notebook and write on their pros and cons and weigh out every decision and think about things when it was, especially when it was something important. I wouldn't call up or run to another friend and start unloading. Yeah. Have a neighbor. Yeah, that neighbor. Okay. I thought it was something new. So this week she started complaining about her life situation. I was saying, well, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this. Because I had some ideas looking at what she was going through, and it was, a lot of it was, I don't want to say self-created, but let's just say she was stuck in a life situation where she could get out of it, but it's going to take some pretty major work. It's not something that's not going to go shazam and it's done. Some people use your open heart to their advantage without thinking how it affects you. Barbara, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So the other day I was giving her all these different things she could do, and she was shooting down each and every one of them. Well, at the end, I finally said, well, look, I got to go run errands because the cats here, we feed a feral colony. We're always running to the store for cat food. Cat food is a major thing for major expense. So it's like, I got to get cat food. I got to eggs and milk, the usual stuff. Hey, I got to go. And so I left the conversation. The very next day, she came at me and said that she needed somebody to be empathetic, sympathetic to her with her problems. She didn't need somebody as prosaic as I was, who was actually coming up with solutions. She didn't need that. She needed tea and sympathy. But see, here's the thing. If you come to me for tea and sympathy and it's an ongoing thing and it's been months and months, years and years, we're throwing these things out there and you're saying, oh, woe is me. I have no solutions. And well, you could do it this way, or this other way. And you tell me, I don't know what I'm talking about. You tell me that I'm entitled because I have more money than you. When you start saying those things, that's what I'm going, okay, all you want to do is whine. And I don't have the patience for that. I just don't. With the kind of illness I have, I can't take in too much negative emotion. It bothers me. It makes me worse. So the cat colony is not feasting on the iguanas. No, even though they have tried to eat a few iguanas. My little Stinky he was always missing patches of fur around his neck because he was always fooling with Big Iggy in the backyard, and Big Iggy is like 5 feet long. One day I looked out the window and he's up in the tree like 20 feet, and I'm looking going, what are you doing 20 feet up in the starfruit tree? Well, I looked down and Big Iggy was at the bottom and he was like in mode, and he was showing his little dewlap thing, and he was like bulking up. And I went out there and Stinky came down and made a wide circle around the iguana because the iguana does beat up on him when he messes with it. And I'm like, you gotta learn your lesson. I am learning that there is support to help, and then there's playing the victim, which is draining. Exactly, Barbara. If somebody plays the victim with me too many times, and this is somebody that I allowed do it a long, long time. It's only my fault. She was involved with a anti-cult organization, and they did a number on her. And I've been listening to her talk about this anti-cult organization for like 8 years now. And I don't even think she was involved with it for 8 years. But it's just been such a knife wound to the heart of her being who she is, that she can't get over it. She can't move on. And I'm looking at it going, is it more you can't move on, or you don't want to move on? I'm beginning to think she doesn't want to move on. She doesn't want. So anyway, she told me I was responding to her wrong. I wasn't supposed to be a practical person and offer solutions. I was supposed to give her tea and sympathy. Well, I haven't heard from her since, and I haven't said anything. But I think this afternoon I'm going to have to write her a message and say, hey, no. I wish you well, but I cannot listen to the same nonsense all the time. Thankfully, she didn't say she was going to unalive herself, because if she had even hinted at that, I would be having a very different conversation right now with you guys. I would have called the law and had them do a well check on her. Let me throw this out for any creators listening. Do not threaten to unalive yourself in your live streams, because if you do, and I'm watching, I will call the law. I've seen too many cases where people have thrown out warning after warning after warning and then unalive themselves. I will not lose another friend to unaliving themselves. And if you're doing it to manipulate others, that just sucks. Just stop it. There is nothing in this world that's hopeless as long as you're on this side of the dirt. That's really all that's important. Are you on this side of the dirt? Well, everything else is open to interpretation. I'm a big believer in, you just don't do those things. KJ hates it when people call a welfare check when she says things like that in her live stream. Well, I was kind of thinking of that, and I was thinking about there are several others in the community that love to pull the I'm going to unalive myself and then become extremely offended when people call well checks. I saw the gal, used to be Carolyn Ironwill, get very angry because people were calling for well checks on her when she was having, serious issues with her landlord, and she was complaining the police weren't responsive at all. Well, guess what? They responded to the well check. They responded and they came to check her then. And that tells me that they respond to real things. If you make a real, genuine threat, it should be responded to, even if you're KJ and you become offended because the cops are at your door. I would say I would hope that for myself if I started talking like that, but it wouldn't do any good here. The cops here are next to useless. They really are. They hang around the police station and then they drive around doing not much of anything. I've been pulled over one time in the last year, and it was by a policeman who came up to my husband and I grinning and handed us a folder. And we opened the folder, and there was a plea in there in English for money because their police station's septic tank had failed and they needed a new septic tank. I kind of laughed at that one. Now, I've never had a ticket here, knock on Costa wood. I've never had anything like that. The closest I've had was I had one of the guys on the back road that is known to try and shake people down for money, try to get my passport and try to tell me I'd been speeding when I knew damn good and well I wasn't, because it was my old car that wouldn't even go that fast. I wasn't speeding. He didn't have a radar gun, so there's no way he could tell I was speeding or not. And he wanted my passport, and I just said, I was not speeding. You don't have a radar gun? No. Bye. And I drove off. Do they eat donuts? Java Man? I don't know, but I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. And here it's kind of weird because there's so many different kinds. It's like in Washington, D.C., you have all those different kinds of cops. And here it's the same thing. They'll have Trencito police. They'll have regular Guanacaste police. They'll have just local police. They'll have all kinds of different ones. And you're looking to see who's pulling you over and why they're pulling you over. That's an advantage of having a brand spanking new car. I have been waved through traffic stops that are pulling people over looking for violations. That's it. If the septic tank is down, then it's time to dig a latrine. Java Man, that's exactly right. But we kind of giggled and gave him like $20 because I got a kick out of that. I got a big kick out of that because the only one he pulled us over, and he pulled some other silly gringos over. So he was clearly going after people he thought had money. And God knows the police need their crapper. I mean, they do, particularly if they're eating donuts, if they're living on donuts. Which brings me to my final point today. One of the things I noticed when I was out today was that the tourist influx has happened. It's happening right now. And that's cool. We're almost on the edge of tourist season. High season here is usually mid-December on to about mid to late April. That's when the majority of the people come here and go to the beach. It's dry season. It's wonderful. I understand that. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with some of the behavior of some of the tourists. But we had something happen that really speaks to if you're moving here. Don't move here and think you're going to live on $5 a day. You remember, maybe you don't. There used to be a series of books called Europe on $5 a day about backpacking and staying in hostels and doing stuff like that. You can do that here. You can stay cheaply in a hostel, but it's not $5 a day. One of the biggest mistakes I see some people make, and I saw somebody today that I'm pretty sure was that way, is people coming here without enough money. You have to have some flowing income before they'll let you become a resident here. And if you have nothing and you are riding your bicycle everywhere or hitchhiking and you're not even paying the collectivos, and collectivos are good and cheap, and so is the bus. I think the last time I took the bus into the beach at Tamarindo, I paid 30 cents. I mean, the equivalent of that. So one of the biggest mistakes people make was they think they're going to come here and they're going to live on $10 a day and it's going to last. And that's not true at all. I've seen so many people get into some serious trouble, including, our friend that runs a food bank that couldn't pay for surgery. It's the cost of living is cheaper here. We save money here, but at the same time, there's some things that are every bit as expensive or more expensive than in the States. Gas is $9 a gallon, pretty much. Electricity is almost exactly what it is in the States. I'm always looking for different ways to cut our electric bill. Do you have any money? The bus needs a new transmission. Fortunately, their bus companies are making money hand over fist, so that didn't happen, Java Man. But I've seen some crazy things happen. I've come along around the corner, and there the bus is down a huge ravine, knocked into a guanacaste tree. I was like, what? Today we drove to Playa Grande, and it's kind of funny because if we were birds and we're able to go straight out that way, which would be due west, we're only a mile and a half. By the time we take the turnaround and we go past all of the swampland, because it's almost entirely swampland between us and the beach, it's a 15-minute drive, which is kind of funny, a 15-minute drive to get to some place that's a mile and a half from you, because there just aren't roads to the swamp. And that's what I mean when I talk about sometimes Tico time and just some of the crazy things that have happened here. Fortunately, they've never asked me to replace the bus transmission. And buses are really wonderful here. If you're going to come here with hardly any money at all, you're going to be riding the bus a lot. You can get a bus to just about anywhere. And the good thing about tourist season is you can get buses just about anywhere, planes, anything like that. It's not even that expensive. Sometimes when I go to my doctor's office in San Jose, instead of driving the 5 hours, there have been times when I've taken the plane, which is really close by here. Between myself and Grande, there's only the airport. And it's something like $70 round trip to go down to San Jose instead of doing the 5 hour. Go to San Jose, take the Uber from the airport there in San Jose to wherever you're going. And it's so much easier on your mental state than driving is. I tell everybody who comes here, San Jose is a crazy city in the fact that the way the roads are laid out is kind of crazy. They're every which way. The way they're named is weird. It's like Avenito 3. The next one might be Avenito 1000. And the next one after that might be Avenida 7. So they're laid out weird. They don't make any decipherable sense at all, as far as I can tell, the way the streets are laid out. And then you might be going this way and that way, and this one's a one-way street, and this. So driving there is such a pain in the rear end that we don't do that anymore. We fly because it's a lot easier on my mental health is worth more to me than $70. Plus, I have the tendency to get super lost there, super lost. I can't tell you how many times we've been driving around in a circle in San Jose, even with Google Maps. Google Maps doesn't work real well here. Waze does, and that's about the only way you can get around is with Waze. So that's my Costa Rica rant today. Yeah, don't come here and think it's going to be $5 a day, because it's not. It'll be cheaper, but you really need some kind of income, some regular income stream to live well here. You just do. And that's why this is a good place for retirees. If you have your retirement income coming in, this is an ideal place because most things are cheaper here. It sounds kind of like the roads in West Virginia. Yes. Where east and west wrap around the mountain and both end up going south. Java man, that's exactly right. Plus, the other thing that people don't realize here is not all the roads are paved. I know that's kind of a very strange thing to think about, but it's very true. The road my house is on is unpaved. The road to the airport is unpaved. There's been times where the front entrance of the airport has been closed, and we've had to park at the edge of the runway and walk in on the runway to be able to take our flight down an unpaved road. 3 years ago, I got caught on one of the back roads here by the airport. During rainy season, I got caught in the mud. I got all the way to within about 20 feet of where the road cleared up, and I got stuck. And this is after I went like a mile and a half on the world's muddiest road. And I got so stuck, I had to get on top of my car, searching for bars, and call my husband. Searching for, bars, saying, hey, you got enough bars to call. So I called him, and as I'm waiting, this sweet older man came up, this older gentleman riding a horse. And I talked to him for quite a while. He was riding his horse through the mud. What was interesting to me about the horse is he didn't have a bit on it. He had like a rope bridle, and that was it. And he had his little 4-year-old grandson in front of him. And the horse was just as tame as can be. It was certainly a weird conversation to be having on a back road. And by this time, I've slipped and fallen in the mud at least 3 times. So I kind of look like the creature from the Black Lagoon. Oh, so that's what happens here in Costa Rica. You have to really be very laid back in how you approach life. Because if you're a type A, you won't like it here. Nobody here is a type A. Ticos are quite nice people, but they're quite slow in everything they do. They live their life, a life of enjoyment. I watch them just be so laid back about everything in this world and think, oh, if I could just be like that, if I could just absorb that, to be that laid back instead of going, oh my God, do I have my plastic bags? Okay, you guys, I think I'm going to go. This whole thing with KJ, just watching the paperwork flying back and forth on the lawsuit is pretty crazy. It's the opposite of laid back. And I just, for the life of me, can't figure out how she thinks she's going to get out of this one. Because I think that he's going to take this one all the way. I think she's done enough damage where he's not going to settle. It's not going to be like Todd Chrisley going, I will never settle. And then I settled. The 21st will be interesting. Yes, it will be. Will we have a turkey or a gift for Thanksgiving? I don't know, but I would know I would not be. Maybe she'll get out of it by moving to Costa Rica. Java man, that does not work. We have reciprocity with the US for things like that. They will come after you here. It's not all banana leaves and back roads, even though it does feel like that. There are enough. It's like I used to sing the song, 50 ways to 50 ways to leave your lover as 50 ways to fleece a gringo, because they would chase her here and the fine would probably double and triple, and then the police here would come after her and the country would want their cut of everything. So it would be very, 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 very interesting. Is Uncivil going to go there, or is he going to just cover it live um, on remote like Skype or one of the other ones? Do you know? I really want to go, and I'm going to have to probably twist my husband's arm because he does not want me even talking about her, thinking about her, or anything. Dial in. I may have to do the same on the 21st. She could always move to Russia. They're always looking for online agitators, and Russia doesn't have an extradition treaty with the US. Java man, that would be a good place for her. She's already used to the cold, so it shouldn't be any big hassle for her. She could spew and say anything she wanted, and nobody could sue her for it. It would just be ridiculous. Katie Joy in Russia. I'd have to ship her my Russian fur hat if she does that. Okay, I'm really going to go this time. I got to lay down. I stupidly fell down. I think KJ is Graham. He is just a signature. No lawyer in the right mind would word a document like that. Share Bear, I think what's going on with her and him is that she writes her documents and he signs them. I don't know why that is. I don't know how he is rubber stamping some of the crap she says. Like her saying she's an entertainment journalist. It's not quite it. She might have to switch from wine to vodka. Yeah, vodka. Exactly. So you guys take care of yourself. Avoid the Rona. I'm just going to throw that one out there. Feeling so much better, but we're still not 100% over it. It has been way weirder than I thought it was going to be. And I'm vaxxed and double boosted. So there you go. Is it double or triple boost? I can never remember how many times I've had it. So that's what's going on here. Costa Rica, I'm going to lay down in the bed. Like I said, I stupidly fell down at the beach and all my bits hurt now. So it's painkillers and laying down time. Love you guys. Have a great afternoon.